yeah, you know, so you
No
got
man.
we're on the
Euros.
one.
Euros. Did you hear me?
Uh, Joy to come
Yeah.
in light and we done. We gone.
No.
We're on.
Is Euros hearing me?
Uh,
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm here.
Why? I want to tell you the truth. You see the president of Ukraine? But the guy name
Yeah.
Zelensky.
Yeah.
Boy, from far look at that man. You look like you want to be a great leader, boy.
yeah, boy. Anyway, we're on.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It is a beautiful evening in August in Belize City. It rained off and on today, and it's been raining. Certainly not as much rain as we're used to getting around up to this time. August is August normally a dry month, Joe? I used to call it Maga season. Uh,
But from the different people I spoke with and trying to use my own memory, it is quite clear that the seasons have changed somewhat. I think we could have made almost predict exactly what will happen each month.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
when you go back to primary school days, when at first, remember, we used to get May month and June.
correct.
And that was the soon the Cambridge period, I think. Then after when it changed, it was when we changed the vacation period. But because of what the vacation period was for us, it was the period when we go for vacation because it was a long dry season.
Correct. Everybody
And
go
we leave the
swimming or go
city, and
camping.
right, we go out into the rural areas, places like Mulling River, Manatee. We go into the land areas, the rural, that's where we used to go. And those were the period when I remember good. We never had rains in at any time. Then, at a certain time when we know the rain they come,
Right.
and we never had no radar, I could say that. So it was more like people's experience. There are empirical evidence that they use from their experience when looking up into the sky. Fishermen, I think we need to look back on them to say, boy, they were damn good with our forecasters. But of course, it was limited only to the Belize era country, no?
Well, if the fishermen spend a lot of time out there on the water, and
Mhm.
they got the opportunity to study the stars and the moon and all of that. We there on land here, then we got the light pollution, so we don't see the stars again. Uh, too much light out there. First, let me introduce to our guest, Mr. Eros Dawson, a Belizean entrepreneur, business owner. He has a quaint little cafe over there in the Kings Park area. And Eros, we're talking about the you entrepreneurship kind of thing, and I imagine going into it. You've been in business what now? How long?
We're just coming up on 5 years.
Hmm.
Um, Again, it's we're talking about bake now.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
The cafe.
it's been
Uh
just about 5 years. Yeah.
did you have any kind of trepidation in going into it? Would you recommend that people become entrepreneurs? Is it a risk? A big risk? What would you be your advice for somebody else wanting to start a business and not necessarily the same type? Because we find out a lot of time when you go in a business, everybody else wants the same thing, especially if they see you having some degree of success. But
Yeah.
what would you be your advice to somebody thinking about going into a business?
Yeah, definitely. It's a huge risk, and it's always a challenge. And some of my mentors have told me you learn on the road, which is a big thing because you can't account for everything in business. Everything that you'll encounter and all the hardships, all the ups and downs. But at the end of the day, it's for me it's a risk well worth it, and especially in terms of owning my time and steering the ship, so to speak. Right, I get to see this dream become a reality and in the way that I envision it, and for me that's the most important thing. um what I would say to young entrepreneurs is, copying. I wouldn't suggest doing, copying some other business that you see that you might see that it seems like it has a degree of success, um, because there is, like you said, like you said a little while ago. I mean, there's so many people doing that very same thing, trying to just copy and see if they could copy and paste and probably have the same outcome. But in reality, it doesn't work that way. And for a little country like Belize, we need more people that are visionaries, looking to step out and do new things and offer new things to our Belizean people. Our Belizean people deserve it, and that's a big part of the inspiration for the business that I decided to start. I mean, as on a small scale, as small as it seems in terms of what it does for my people, but I envision having, bringing quality, good products to my Belizean people, which I believe that they deserve. I mean, and everybody deserves to have something healthy and of high quality, and delicious items that are at a reasonable cost, and that's the way I see it. Um I don't want to mash anybody can out there, but
No
I,
call no, no call no business name. But
no,
you
I,
sir,
I
you're
I
not
don't need to go through
you
all of that, but there's so much of the same thing going on
yeah,
out
yeah.
there. I think it's time for a new variety, right?
And
And
you're not running a greasy spoon as such. It's a nice environment. You obviously you're big on sanitary conditions and keep it clean and keep the area nice. No, so
definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
parking of course is important. How
Yeah.
is it with staff? Because you now apparently do have a hands-on. You're there watching the business run, so that makes a difference. But there are a lot of times when you have to depend on employees, it poses its
Yeah.
own set of challenges, doesn't it?
Definitely, that's one of the biggest challenges in my business, and I've speaking with other business owners, it's across the board. HR is like they spend most 90% of their time dealing with human resources, and it's quite challenging. But at the end of the day, I have four boys, and that's like my HR training right there, and it's something that has to be done on a daily basis. It's a habitual, correcting and adjusting, and just making the directives and the objectives known on a frequent basis, and it has to be done. It's very challenging and tedious, but and as you rightly said, I mean, I have to be there. I'm very involved in intricate processes in the business, from I'm first in and last out, just like my
Yeah,
product.
you
So
got to boy. Yeah. So it's
yeah,
basically a family business too, right? You got the family now. Everybody pitches in and pull their weight.
definitely. My wife plays a key role in baking, and she does a lot of the office work and different things. And I also have my two sons that are my eldest one that went through being working the front, the barista, and doing different things. And now I have my other son that's lined up to help at the front. No.
How did this happen? Did you one day say to your wife, "Baby, you could cook good. Why not make we do at least something that make that kind of move?" Or did you guys say, "Make we just try to open a business"?
Well, it started. I was working at BTL, and it kind of started from there. While I was working there, my wife was a nurse. She decided that she had this opportunity to get into making rum cakes, and believe it
Okay.
or not, that's the start of it. We started this company called Belize Rum Cakes, where I would come home after work and during lunchtime and help her out making all these little cakes to deliver to a company that sold them in the tourist village. And we started doing that. That was back in from 2016, and we did that for about a year. um, Eventually it grew into the company deciding to sell out, and they wanted somebody else to run that enterprise where they made those rum cakes, and we decided to take it on and take on the packaging and the storefront and everything in the tourist village. That ended up, working out in a sense. We saw that there was potential. Well, of course, we started to battle rental, which was one of our biggest expenses over there at the tourist village, and having the property that we have, we decided it would be very lucrative for us to just decide to, go in this thing full time,
At your one spot,
expand
at
on
your
it,
one, yeah, yeah,
build our own building,
yeah.
try to eliminate that rental expense and expand into coffee roasting and breakfast and lunch and the other products that we provide. So that's how it came about. Of course, it was a long time in the making and planning. It took, I would say, over the course of about 3 years to try to plan this
And step out there and
business.
finally do it, no? Yeah. Let me
Exactly.
before we go on, let me introduce Gregory Morrison, the next leg of our three-legged stool that we sit on every week here. Greg, welcome to the show.
Yes, good
Our
evening.
guest tonight is Mr. Eros Dawson, who is an entrepreneur in Belize City, a quaint little cafe in the Kings Park area that Joe and I have taken on as home for Wednesday morning plannings for the show.
Yeah, you told me about it, and it sounds like a pretty good, fun spot to be at.
Well, it's a nice spot, and it's right. We're on the front line, so we're out front. The man south out there getting sunburn on the side and put on his shade overhead for us so we don't get wet and thing. And we really appreciate that. Eros, the name Dawson rings a crooked
Yeah.
tree. Are you related to the Dawsons from up there?
Well, I've definitely heard stories that we are related, but it's just that we're not. I mean, it's hard to trace. When I
Yeah.
speak to my dad, and I go as far as my grandfather, and then from there on, it's confusing. I mean, they had a different way of doing things back then, and it's kind of like hush hush, I guess.
You
You're
think
not
it's only
lying.
then? You think it's only then?
Why I don't know that is as bad now because now they could get catch too easy. What Joe used to do back then, he can't do again. You see?
The
Uh-uh.
internet, right? The
Yeah,
internet,
Well,
the
the
internet,
internet gets plus
all
your
these phone
phone they track
cameras.
you down and then girl search your phone and thing. It's different. It's amazing
technology.
though. I was thinking back then how, say for instance, public work, and I remember the guys when they used to pass by and going to work. They're gonna make like 1750 a week. They got a wife for another work, about 7 children, and then got another family outside. So how they were they doing it? And I think those ladies back then were working magic, man. How do you stretch that to provide for a family?
$17, huh?
1750 a week them in the make, I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah. Um, until Joe came along and increased the wages for people out there. Joe, you know, I'm a part of the whole taxation thing, right? But you never work in a finance.
Well, for for a short time, because I was a Minister of State in Finance,
Mhm.
in addition from being a full-time Minister in Health. And then I was also responsible for setting up the Public Finance Committee to better advise the then Minister of Finance and whosoever he would be. So I did spend some time in the ministry itself also.
All right. How you?
A question, sorry,
Uh,
go ahead.
go ahead, no man. You go. You got the
No,
flow.
I think the question I was to ask you, Ross, which I think he has answered. And I ask it because my years of experience in business, all my years really, when I was in the public service and outside, I was involved in business because in government, I was in the tax department and customs. So I was dealing with all business people mostly. I left and I came out and I served the business community. But my experience have taught me something for the many people I met coming up. And we were calling some of their names when we go to the bake there, where we have our philosophical discussions. That I noticed that the people who became successful were the people who pursued a business not primarily for the profit, exclusively for the profit, but I think that they were enjoying what they were doing. When you look at some, I could mention because some of them are connected to Euros itself. When I look at the Perdomos, Mario, the father, no, of your father-in-law, it was clear to me that his descent to such distinguished position in the business that he built his empire was simply because of his love for what he was doing. And then I look at the guy who used to supply him with the main product, like Iskander Bedran, which you have heard me talk about.
Yeah.
They were all people who were driven not for the simple sake of just grab onto something when they believe they could make a fast buck with.
Right.
No.
Right.
So I believe that success, no doubt, and I get from what you were saying just now, Curious, you have answered the question, because the way you started it was not that you were thinking of, let me see if I could find something to make money.
Exactly.
It looked like you were gravitated to something that your wife had initiated.
And enjoyed.
And
Yeah.
he like rum and he like cake. So there you go.
Yeah.
A
There was
a regular participant on the show, Mr. Stuart Vernon. We want to say good night to him. He chimes in every week and gives us a little shout out. So I want to thank to all those people who tune in. And remember, we are on every Wednesday evening right here on Sea Smoke. That's
But-
on. Yeah. Go ahead, Gregory.
Iras, what I wanted to kind of think about is, being an entrepreneur like yourself, how could government and the laws of Belize help you to kind of develop your business, and other people like you that are looking to get into business? Is it too much restriction getting in, and what can be done to kind of facilitate yourself as you develop further, and probably new entrants, people that are thinking about it? Do you have any ideas? If there's any obstacles in the law or through the government that could be helped?
Well, I mean, definitely right off the top, I can look at at the way, in terms of business tax. Not necessarily, I mean, GST and business tax are working together, but I can definitely see where business tax, there can be some reform in there, so that it's a little bit more lenient towards businesses.
But business have to pay taxes, so you have to kind of tell me specifically where you see that working, or how that is done.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily looking at in terms of business tax, I would say specifically that, there has to be, I know it's probably in the law, but there has to be some kind of leg room. I can remember my first week being open for business, I was bombarded with business tax and GST and these people coming in and wanting to do audits and stuff like that.
Your first week?
My first week of business.
Wow.
I was still in the process of finishing some final touches on my actual construction and
Right.
the aesthetics of my business. That's to show you how early on it was. And I don't know if it's just if it's misinformation, or if it's some kind of disorganization or whatever it might be. But in that case, it was in a sense, it kind of seemed unfair. It kind of
Almost
seemed
discouraging, no?
Yeah, definitely. It seemed like I was being bombarded, and I just had to kind of step back and try to decipher it and deal with it at that point. But there could be some kind of more
Leniency. So
But
leniency.
did they work with you to kind of resolve this? Did you say like, "Hey, I'm just getting started here," and were they able to recognize that and then work with you from that point?
Yeah, I mean, it took a while. I had to go through all the motions. I mean, they still did the audit. I mean, they had nothing to audit, but they still.
That's what I'm saying. It seems like a waste of time to audit something that
Yes,
doesn't have a
definitely
revenue or any
was.
meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely was. That was my experience. I mean, they came in and they sat in there for like almost 6 weeks, and they did an audit.
Really?
Which they
That's
didn't really have.
ridiculous.
They left somebody in there, and that was it. It was a new experience for me because I never went through it before. It was my first business registering and doing all this
Yeah.
at that point. So
Was it an audit, or was it trying to help you to structure it so that they could be confirmed that the taxes that's due would be collected? Was it really an audit? Because
was
there's
an
nothing to
audit.
audit. There's
Yeah,
nothing
it
to
was an audit because they wanted all my receipts and they wanted to check all my online information, all my banking information, and to find
Oh.
out what my sales are and what. So they wanted specific information, financial
Prematurely.
information.
Prematurely.
Well,
Yeah, it could have been an oversight. It could have been some kind of error in their system or in
Right.
their information gathering.
Uh-huh.
Whatever it was, I mean,
could
I,
it have,
you
could
know,
it have been a setup to a shakedown?
it's quite.
He can't say that now.
I mean,
He's
the
in
regime-
Yeah,
business.
yeah. They'll really come for you then, right? Go ahead, Joe.
Well, it was a different regime,
Yeah, I
right?
think
So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
wasn't
aside
this.
from the,
It wasn't this administration.
Aside
It
from
was the
the-
other administration. So at that time,
Yeah,
it-
and
well,
when
it
you
doesn't
finish,
matter. Government
just a
in the
moment,
generic
just a
sense.
moment.
So we speak of
Yeah.
government in the generic sense. We not talk about
Yeah,
PUBG. We
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
government. But I would
So
have thought that
keeping-
there are two aspects that maybe could have been offending and cutting across your commercial practice. Yes, they come to do the audit. The only thing is it now that with the business tax and the GST, they are charged on the same basis. So once they determine the gross profit, the gross income, that's where your tax will be determined on. But what I'd like to ask you is that do you believe it is fair for a business when not making profit to pay tax, business tax? Do you consider it fair? That
But
if you
do
are
they
not
do
making
that?
a profit,
Are they
you are
do
losing.
they
Let's
charge
say-
you tax when you're not making profit, Mr. Cowie?
Yes, because we changed from the tax on income to the tax on gross receipt, which is the business tax, as I mentioned to you all before. I don't know who came with that, but I understand it was at the period of another government long before. But the unfairness about it is that you're paying your gross receipt. So if you sold 10,000 for the month, you're paying that. But suppose when you sell the 10,000, especially in the beginning of the business, you could have had a loss.
Yeah,
Spend
So why do you have
12,000.
to pay tax? And principle,
Yeah.
you shouldn't pay.
yeah,
You should
Yeah.
pay on your profit.
Yeah,
Just
your
like
profit.
how you earn an income as an employee,
yes,
then you can
Yes.
pay on that income.
yeah,
The tricky thing, though, I believe, is that a lot of that relies upon the integrity of the individuals too, because you
Yeah.
have to. Not everybody's going to be honest, so there has to be in place a way to collect the proper taxes. But
Right.
I see what you're saying. But that might entail too much legwork. You have to go through a lot to try to determine that, and the person themselves, like you, Russ, would have to be providing all the receipts of everything we spend to the letter for say, well, listen, I spend more than I made this month, and then have to go through and be the process with that also. I don't know. Has it been challenging for you, Russ, in that regard?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said in the beginning, it was just it was a bit intimidating and it was a bit challenging. But as time went on, I learned exactly how to get this thing done, and I just stayed up to date with my taxes, and it was a learning experience, and we did it. But like I said, any new business or entrepreneur starting out, that can be very intimidating. These guys coming at that time, it was two separate departments. So you got the truck from the GST, and then the business tax coming, and then you got health coming, and everybody and social security. So everybody is like, I don't know. Maybe that's my experience, and maybe it's the area where I decided to start my business or the type of business that I'm doing. Maybe the aesthetics, I don't know, but it attracted them in that way in the beginning. So they came on me like a gang. And it was kind of intimidating, but I just dealt with it one by one, and I, just tried to have the faith and dealt with them and just kind of broke it down, and they helped. After a while, these guys just started. Different people in the different departments started to help me, and they showed me this is how we need to get these things done, and so that's one aspect of it. And I was going to touch on duties because, of course, that's a big thing for, especially a business like mine. I need to import parts for my equipment, and there's a lot of imports, and that would definitely help a business like mine if there was some kind of leniency when it comes to duties, because in 90% of my duties cost more than the actual goods that I buy, and it's
wow, yeah.
I mean,
what I'm thinking were they helpful in helping you work with the licenses and fees and all those? And I think you said they they were a little bit more helpful in the end as you get to know them, get to know the procedure, and they
Yeah.
get to know more about your business and what you were
Yeah,
doing.
yeah, definitely. Definitely in the beginning, they were very. It was a different attitude, and moving on. I went through several different regimes, and staff changes, public service shuffles
Mhm.
around, and that happened on quite a bit. And as I went along, moved along, it became, you had different people that were.
Mhm.
You had a lot of people in the different departments that were helpful, and they would,
Mhm.
try to reason with you one on one, and that was the silver
Yeah.
lining.
Yeah.
So
You,
that definitely helped.
But
What about the banking
Joe,
system?
sorry.
What did you find able to develop with your business good banking relationship that helped facilitate whatever you needed to kind of cover expenses and things like that?
Yeah.
Was that something that was forthcoming once you got established? And I know that's individual,
Yeah.
but I'm just asking, did you find it helpful, and did you find the banks accommodating in terms of that regard?
Well, I mean, without being any kind of, I'm not a spokesperson for any bank or anything, but
Mhm.
without any bias aside, I chose to deal with Atlantic Bank for, the various features that they offer and usability, and that seemed to be much more convenient for me in terms of the online service, the corporate system, the credit cards, and their credit card machine. It was fairly easy and less taxing. So that's kind of the way that I went. I had tried the others, and they all came, to try to
Mhm.
sell different services. So in
Right.
that respect, that helped quite a bit to make business flow a lot
Right.
easier.
I
COVID came, of course, so that was like a big the
Yeah, talk
banking
about
the
that.
banking
Yeah.
system did came. Yeah, they did
I would
come
like
through
to.
to provide some kind of help in terms of like basically just to help you stay afloat until all that
Okay.
was over, and then we decided to
So you opened
continue
your
with
business
our
just
usual.
before COVID, or during COVID?
Yeah, it was just before COVID,
Okay.
yeah,
so
it
we had
I,
just started, and
did it pose a big challenge? I mean, how did you really did it affect your business seriously? Did
definitely
you at a point question
definitely
maybe
definitely
we still
COVID.
do this?
let me. Sorry,
Yeah,
can I
COVID
come
was
in?
a major challenge,
Oh, sorry.
definitely. Yeah, sorry, somebody's saying something.
That's Joe. Go ahead,
So
Joe.
what I wanted to do, Eros, I think you have learned from your mistakes. And please, I would want to be very candid, but of course, not in a discrediting way. What I found out from you in listening to you and talking to you, there is no doubt that you had the drive in you to do what you are doing. Though, from my experience with business, small business, medium and big business, is that a lot of young people with good ideas and getting backing financially failed. The statistics show that. So, what the social development did, these were funds that were prepared to help small business. I volunteered at the time to be on the board for the social development. And what I did, we offered free services to those who want to begin a business with the understanding that we will hold their hand through so that they will know from the beginning, which is good to know if you want to start a business, all the things that you need to do, meaning all the statutory requirements, which is what we do for business. So we used to provide it free, and then once that business, begin to grow, that person becomes a client, a paid client to us. But what I find of one of the failures of small business in Belize, why they never did grow, is that one of the important things is the total indifference to proper accounting, meaning they had not been able to evaluate their performance because they don't have the standards for proper accounting. Now, whether you're to be required by the tax department or not to file returns, it's always good for you to comply with all the prudent requirements to have a business successful. So no doubt, the drive was in you. But it is good to know it from the outset. And if you haven't done it, I would say do it as quickly as possible. You have to learn to be able to measure performance. And there is a standard, international standard for doing that. But I can see opportunity for you to grow because you have I would say, the inherent drive in you. But when you had that problem with the tax department, that could have been avoided because they never had to come to you. You should have gone first to get your trade license, go to the tax department to get your applications for your business tax to file, go to the GST, and all these things you didn't know at the time. So therefore, they found out that a business was going on. And that's what attracted them to you. So it's nothing, anything wrong that they were doing. It was you who did not do what you should have done in starting a business, you see.
Is
That
there
is
some sort of
wonderful.
manual? Is there a manual somewhere that a person wanting a business can go to a specific site? You're saying you offer that service still, Joe? Can a person who wants to
All
be
the
entrepreneur
all the accounting firms in Belize, all these
provide that service?
that's what we do. No, I am saying in our case, Koya and Associates, we volunteered with funding that was coming through the Christian Council, the Caribbean Council of Churches. They were bringing in thousands and thousands of dollars. Small business for them sometimes was like $100,000 they were lending. But the way they were lending it is on condition that the board had to have a chartered accountant sitting on it. And I offered, when they came to me, to do it. I also offered to give training and to help all young entrepreneurs exactly how to set up the business. And we did that as a pro bono. But if they grow, we will grow with them. So in the beginning, it was pro bono so that they know exactly what to do. So whenever you're going to set up a business, wherever part of the world you are, especially in countries that are more subscribing to the requirements of regulations, you would have to be able to comply in when you want to do a business to know why I have to go and apply to get my business registered. I have to go and get my trade license. So
Your
these are
social
things
security.
yeah, these are things that should have been done. But unfortunately, you were not aware. But I give you credit because you
No,
survived.
he did it. He did. Eros,
Yeah.
are you planning expansion? Do you maybe, or do you foresee a big franchise somewhere else? Do you plan on growing where you are to something bigger? Have you given a thought to the future as such?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm definitely all for growing and expanding. It's just that I need to do it sustainably, and even at coming on to 5 years, I mean, the rule of thumb was after 2 years, you should be able to, see some progress and kind of start walking on your own. But that's really not the case the
But
way I see
not with COVID. It couldn't have been done
it.
with COVID. I don't expect now. So
Exactly. So I need to make sure that I can get this one to a point where I feel completely comfortable before I decide to make that move. And I tried it before COVID because I had a smaller version inside the Belize Medical Associates, and that was kind of a test to expand in that way. And then COVID came, and we had to kind of regress and go back to the basics. So
okay,
sure.
is that place still there at Medical? Because I
No.
remember that being back there, only cafe kind of thing, right?
Yeah, no, it's not there anymore. We had to close it during COVID.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
One of the question I was going to ask you said you have a big cost on produce and import, but do you source local produce for your coffee and whatever you can to kind of keep the dollars at home? And is that one of the focus of your company? Is that something
Yeah.
that you?
I mean, yes, definitely. I mean, most of the items like the raw materials for cooking and for the kitchen and cleaning and that sort of thing is sourced locally. I mean, the sugars, flours, all that stuff that we use on a daily basis is sourced locally.
Do you use Belize made produce? I think if you can,
Yeah,
or is there some
yeah, for
focus on
sure.
that? Yeah,
For
okay.
sure. It's just like stuff that you can't find here, like equipment.
Right.
I need to import all my equipment and parts and that sort of thing. But all the produce is local. you know, I don't want to get into how much the price has changed
No, then
on
yeah,
all those
right.
products since
We can
I
imagine.
started,
We can
but it's
imagine.
alarming.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, yeah.
unless it's brown sugar, which you can't get. Why you can't get brown sugar, I believe, why?
I
And,
don't know.
and that I think that will really make you kind of the white sugar you go out and refine and come back in. You get all the white sugar you want, but you can't get no brown
Yeah.
sugar.
The marketing board has brown sugar, you know.
Yeah.
I haven't had a problem getting it these days,
Through
but
them, no?
there are some times when it's scarce.
Yeah, interesting.
The
Uh,
Belize marketing board, yeah.
ha-
What
have
did you
you?
think of this year's? Because it seems to me that the question asked about expanding. I have seen
Yes.
expansions taking place. Like, for example, it's true now that it is almost out of existence. But with the burgers, with like in the case of Howell Langswood, who begin to spread, he almost had like a trademark for his burger, where you have them in different parts of the city. Now, you mentioned about starting out at the medical associates. Do you believe that there is enough, the market is large enough for you to try to develop and expand other sites, to have another baker too, which then will allow you now the economies to maybe import rather than buy from the importers, which could bring down your costs? Have you think about that kind of expansion? Different units?
Yeah, for sure. I think the market is there. I mean, the market has been flooded with a lot of startups. There are a few that's been around for a while as well, but there is definitely a market for an expansion in that way, like to have other units. I can see that it's it's an entirely, you know, it's there's a lot of similarities, but it's a different product, and it's delivered in a different way. So. I think that's key. There is a cause. It's not just like you said, like you rightfully said. It's not about profit. It's about people, and it's about, yes, you need profit, but there has to be a cause, and that's my main thing. It's for a cause.
You
That's
know,
good.
you have any idea how many outlets they have, like here in the city? And let me tell you why I ask. There is one in Westland Diva. I can't bring a name right now, but I think you know them. You have one on Eve Street. And there were outlets that I used to go to before you had big as it is. And yes, the one in Westland Diva has been doing pretty well, it seems to be, but it is smaller than yours. And then the
Yeah,
one on Eve Street, I think it's almost where Price and Company used to be.
Well, careful, because we're not gonna promote the competition on this one. We want people
No,
go to big.
That's
no,
yeah.
But
I
We,
was
but
we
yeah,
fighting
we
it.
won't
yeah,
give
yeah.
we won't give any
I
names.
was fighting it because I believe
yeah,
that the one of Eve Street may have gone under. You see,
Yeah,
there are
I'm
one or
trying to
two of
remember. I'm
them.
trying to think of one there. I can't recall none there. I know you got
yeah,
La Petite, the Radisson, of course.
Then you have
But
the Le Petit at Radisson.
yeah,
Again,
yeah. There's quite a few of them that, like I said, there's a lot of similar businesses out there, but I like to, you know,
Product
I like
differentiation
to
is what
align with
makes a
other
difference.
roasters, and I offer like a different product in that sense, because there's not a lot of people roasting coffee in Belize, and that makes a different that makes for an extremely different, you know, it's a
Product,
specialized
yeah,
product,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
It's
that
fresh. It's fresh.
yeah, you know,
It's
and
fresh.
complemented with the other stuff that we do in the kitchen,
well, your food is
it's sort of
awesome.
unique.
Your food is good. I tell you that. I've tried a number of different items, and the food is always quality, and I
Thank
like
you.
that. You know what you're gonna get. When you order something, you know you get something good and tasty, and I like that. Even the presentation. So
Thank
I
you.
I
but
Thank
want
you.
to applaud you on that. Yeah.
It comes at a cost. It comes at quite a cost, because I offer everything fresh every day, and there is no reheating items. There is no selling it. Selling products from one day to the next, and that's it. When you think about it, it's quite an expensive venture, but there is a cost behind it, and we try to if there's
Maintain
anything
that
left,
standard, no? Yeah.
or
but
guys,
one of the
I have
things
a lot
there
of
that
friends on Queen Street that benefit in that way, and Albert Street, so we
Oh,
don't
one
need
of
okay.
the
to
things
carry
I
that over.
find that is outstanding about you, apart from the food itself, which is good, but what I find in business, especially this catering type business, you find that, okay, a G Mike, who is well known, goes to bake. Then the next thing you know, another person goes to bake and begin to have a chat with G Mike because he go there regularly. And then another person go one day and say that, you know something, I would like to have these conversations. But when I look at Bake today compared to Le Petit and the Westland Diva one, I think Bake attracts people now who comes to talk business, who comes to really have conversations, who have breakfast meetings,
Yeah.
which I'm not
Yeah.
seeing in these other places.
Yeah. It creates an environment, right?
That's
It
right.
is
Yeah.
it is conducive to that. Did you have that in
Definitely.
mind, Eros? Did you set out to create such an environment? Because it
That-
certainly is conducive
yeah.
to that.
It was definitely a huge part of it. I mean, it's not. It was definitely a huge part to of the whole business model, to have people come together and brilliant minds come together and share ideas and try to um, advance the causes that we so desperately need in Belize. So that's definitely a part of it. And
Do you
at
do you
the end of the day, the
offer
people.
do you
Sorry.
offer services like internet access and that type of
Yeah.
capabilities for people?
Yeah, there's free internet, and
Okay.
it's
Okay.
very, it's high speed internet. So there's
Right.
a lot of people
Okay.
that would go there just to have a cup of
Right.
coffee and work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Then
Yeah.
that's exactly.
You spoke about your friends on Queen Street and Albert Street. Apparently, you also have a general side. Are you you do lead community work and so, don't you?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm generous. At the end of the day, I'm saving my own butt, but I'm not there. That is an ideal I hope to get to, but I'm not there yet. But at the end of the day, yes, I do work with with I have in terms of it's like social groups. I have a group that I work with, alcoholics and addicts, um, and I call them my friends because I get to know these people, and I try to visit them on a regular basis, if not every day, on Albert Street and Queen Street. Um, these
These are
people,
actually the guys hanging out there.
the guys that sleep on the street. I mean, they're neglected. I mean,
But
there's
yeah,
quite a few of
yeah,
them.
yeah. That's honorable that you would consider them friends as such. Yeah, man. Um,
For sure. I mean, definitely.
and you try to look over their interests and whatnot. Yeah, yeah. That's commendable
Yeah.
indeed. Yeah. Why? What's the future looking like for Eros? What are you? What,
Well, I like this trajectory in the sense that it's very fulfilling to sit and talk with you guys, and like you mentioned, all the people that come through that have been the self-made guys, and these guys that have been very influential in Belize, and have spread their tentacles across the planet, so to speak. And the stories are amazing, and I've learned a lot from that. And quite a few of you guys are like mentors as well, where I garner a lot of experience and knowledge, and believe me, it helps me quite a bit in different things. I try to apply, as much as I can.
I see you also are an avid reader, and usually you got
Yeah,
a book in your hand,
yeah.
and you also spend time sitting down and talking to people. So
That's
obviously
right.
that helps.
I wanted
Definitely.
to accentuate that personality of yours, Eros. When I go to Le Petit, it's very unlikely I will ever have a chat with Michael Ashcroft. When I go to Westland Diva, it's very unlikely I could have a chat with the owner.
You buy
But
your
what I
thing and
like
go.
about Big, you could go there and you can find Eros, the owner, having a chat with different
Yeah,
people,
sitting outside
which
in
to me
that.
makes you feel at home. Your
Definitely.
personality,
Yeah.
you're easily getting along with people, your interpersonal skills, you're having good food, you have a physically good environment. It seems to me, boy, you have it all put together, except there were some things now which I will give you pro bono service for to advise you what to do next.
I like that. I like the
But
sound of that.
I will save that
The
for one
song
of
of
these
pro bono in
mornings when we
particular, right?
Now, I think there's some things, quite frankly, that I used to do when we had the junior chamber. Every Saturday, there was a place at SCA where I would meet with all these upcoming business people through the Junior Chamber. And I will give lectures and talks there about business, apart from the one I used to do on the south side, also with the social development of the Christian Council churches. And I saw many people who today are still in business that started from them. So I am seeing that
So it
now
works.
Bake has become the place where the seed of the new revolution is being planted.
We have to
And
watch
and
you, Joe, because you
an incubator, right?
yeah, Joe,
That's right.
Joe the lean towards revolution. In fact, it's funny. On my way to Bakes this morning, I was passing, driving up Central American Boulevard, and one after the other, a Rasta on a bike, and it was like 10 of them. And I said, where the revolution, the boy? Which one are going? And the man, so talking about revolution though, and Eros, I know we're all up on the news and whatnot. Make we shift focus here for a bit. We see things that happen at Orange Walk. How has the police been with you? They pass around often. They not really mess with you at all, right?
No, the police. My experience with the police in the area has been very. They've been very vigilant. You know, they do their mobiles come around quite a bit. They do their check-ins on a regular basis, and you know they talk to us and of course these guys had the administration had set up a police booth in the park, and they've made their presence known, and not in a bad way in this area. So I don't have any complaints about that.
Yeah, but that's thing in Orange Walk. I don't know if you've been watching the news and following the story, where apparently the guys were knocked off of the bike and one of them was killed. I understand now that there was some gunshots fired. Did you get that?
It's very unfortunate, definitely, because we don't want to lose life. I mean, and I don't know, was that just the police force or was the military involved as well? No,
I don't know that the military was involved. I know that the police were chasing the guys, and see, things like this tend to drive a wedge between the community and the police, which is terrible. And I find that the media seems to be always on the side of trying to make it worse, as opposed to trying to quell the situation. The media and Belize. Let's get your perspective on that. You follow the media. Are they doing a good job? Are they? Is there big room for improvement in that area?
Yeah, I think the media. I think they're definitely doing a good job. I mean, that's not an easy job to do. I mean, we could stay here. I mean, I could stand here and criticize and say, man, all I hear about is the killings, and sometimes it crosses my mind. But at the end of the day, these guys are doing a very difficult job. The only thing I was kind of concerned about slightly was the fact that they were all coming together to form an alliance, and that kind of made me think.
But I don't know. That might be a good thing. They are the fourth estate, and their role is to provide the people with information and news that hopefully will go towards making life better for the community at large and the people. That would seem to be a common purpose. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It might be good as opposed to bad. No.
I think the coming together of the media is a good idea. When you look at the limited resources they have access to, they are doing a wonderful job. I would say a reasonable good job with the limited resources they have. But I believe they can then share resources. I think there is always benefit in coming together. And then with that coming together, there are things that they can better do. One, we need to have more qualified, trained, first in theory, hopefully, but the academic levels, of journalists in the country. Secondly, we have to understand that we have never reached the level of the bigger countries because we can't specialize. We can't have one investigator or a journalist for politics, one for economics, one for foreign affairs. We can't. So, but I would say this, that in coming together, they can even share some of their human resource in collecting information, because if it is to collect information, then you could take it now and you could make it the news you think it should be. But you can have the common good of collecting information. So I would say
it
that
has
coming
been
together kind
tried.
of deal is a
I
good coming
I
together of the media.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
in
sure.
principle, yeah. In practice, I think it's going to be very challenging. I don't see Jules using a Marisol, Love using one of the reporters from Seven. I think they somehow the personalities in those different departments in those different media houses not kind of like give me much hope for that.
Yeah.
Let's hope and see what comes of it. No,
I think on big stories they could share resources that you won't use them on your newscasts and stuff, but you could be gathering information and say, hey, this is what I have discovered in this. This is the information I have. You know, when you look at something like the Portico situation and digging into that, I think if they pull together and gather the information, there's enough for each of them to develop their own news story type based on whatever their emphasis and focus is going to be, and still share the resource so they don't have that burden of chasing the story down each individually. So I think there is opportunity.
it may be nice also to have a touch one, touch all kind of attitude also, because when you're running down stores like that, you also they run risk, no? So
Yes, yes,
and I
yes.
think you're alluding to that, Eros, that the toughness of the job, no, because they have to go out there and
Yeah.
trying to run down them stores, not
You
easy.
you don't need four of them to be chasing the same dead story. Or
One of
Yeah.
the one
They
of the
could grab the pool
criticisms
resources and equipment.
right,
one of the
right.
one of the criticisms I would like to know level on the media, and it's because we have to discern whether the media will be driven by profit or whether it will be driven by giving the information and having the courage to be impartial, and hopefully the money will follow them. But it seems to me that over the years they have been following the money, and they follow the money in some cases, which I am speaking as facts now, not a result. They follow the money that the government was one time giving them a regular amount every month,
Remember that? Yeah,
Yeah.
so
yeah,
as to
shameful.
not to criticize the government. And the truth
Mhm.
about it, they all accepted it.
Yeah.
Every one of
Yeah.
them did.
And when they cut
And it
the
was a large amount.
subventions,
And
when
when
they
we
cut
found
the
out about it,
subvention, the PUP lost the election. Remember that?
well, yeah, it was when I became Minister of State in Finance and I asked that we set up the public finance. And then we began to do research, our internal audit we were doing. And when we found the millions of
A
our
lot
money
of
being
money
paid
them they
every
get.
month,
Yeah,
and I'm saying literally millions. So I'm
yeah.
fighting that because that is the fear I have. That if you believe you want to follow the money, then to me, your reporting cannot be relied upon.
But Joe, that was
Well,
interesting.
you know, I hear what you say, but nobody works for just the honor of working
Well,
in that
that is it.
regard.
That is it.
So the money will always be a motivator. How to make it not the only motivator is always the challenge.
But
Yeah.
a bigger problem,
And
Greg,
they
is
won't
that
bite the hand that feeds.
government
Yeah.
is
Yeah, but
the
I would differ with
government is the
Dr. Wong on that one because
biggest
I think
advertiser. Government is the biggest
Yes.
advertiser, and business places don't
Yes.
advertise a lot in Belize. So as long as who you have to that who the who, you have to pay the piper, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, but sorry to interrupt on this one, but I need to come back on it. I think I mentioned to you all not long ago about a meeting in Edinburgh where they have come to accept, and there was others who already had accepted it before. Evidently, nobody invests in money not to get a return. But when you are driven by the return, rather than allow the market through your ingenuity and taking care of your workers and taking care, your workers will take care of the customers. And that is what will drive your bottom line. But if you decide to drive your bottom line by sensationalism with the news,
Right.
then what you are
Right.
beginning to do is to give
Yeah.
the people information that is not true.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
not reliable in our what is
kind
supposed
of
to be.
kind of unfair for you to pick on Jules, but I understand what you're saying.
No, I
I
think until when we have the courage, as well someone mentioned, to speak how we feel about things, we will never be able to change things because we could be talking one of ourselves, but if we not got the courage to come forward and do something about it, I am saying that because I have actually have the evidence to prove what was happening, and I am
yeah.
saying to you, these people are my friends, my relatives, but they thought that they have to survive. So for them to survive, they believe that they have to take the money and shut up their
Yeah.
mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
think
that is what I am saying.
what happens a lot too is that they sensationalize most of the stories beyond the point where they have to. I think,
Exactly.
and for that
And
for
coming
that
back
very
right
same
now
reason.
to asking Eros this question as the young entrepreneur, the government just recently, because they claim that there is price gouging, and therefore they have decided now that they will take some 30-odd items. And those 30-odd items will end up to be about 1,000 items because of the different brands and whatnot. And they will impose price control. And some of the items, which are more the food types, they will allow you a 15% markup. And on the non-essential food items, the rest that they are controlling, they will allow you a 20% markup. Now, as a young entrepreneur, do you believe in that price control and in particular in the way it is being done? As the consumer, you'd have said, well, boy, Joe, but you're supposed to welcome that because they want to hold on the price for you. But that's not the way I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree
no,
with
But
you.
let me hear the let me hear the opinion that you have on it because it's a matter that I think we should have been really fun.
yeah, no, I don't think it's sustainable to just control prices just because we want to keep it at a certain level for a longer period of time. Because I mean, things are ever changing, and we're importing all these goods at the end of the day, or the raw materials, in most cases, and these things change on a regular basis, and we can't necessarily. Somebody's going to have to foot the bill for the changes, and most likely it will be the government, and in there, of course, it will be the taxpayer. So I think we will still end up paying for that if we try to control prices.
Yeah.
So I mean, it should be controlled to a certain extent, in that you cannot, you know, based on world markets and prices internationally, you should be able to have a certain level of markup that is reasonable,
Reasonable. That is
right?
the key.
Yeah.
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 So we don't want to get ahead of ourselves and just anybody just charge whatever they want. No, but at the end of the day, we do have to understand that prices will need to go up, as things change across the world. Transportation costs go up, and
Yeah.
and
Well,
petrol and all that.
What what
I
what
Well,
said
let
what I
me.
have what I've always found is that price control always lead to inferior substitution. So sometimes price control, I see it as a necessity in certain period in times of business cycle, but it cannot be a long term, like you said, Eros. It cannot be a long term event. It needs to be a very short term event to kind of deal with matters on the ground that's immediate.
I saw in the
If you have
news
a
this
natural
evening,
disaster,
actually, excuse me, Joe. I saw in the
Anthony,
news that the peso has actually gone up against the US dollar and the Belize dollar. That while it was
Yeah, I think it went
nine
up a
nine to
couple of yeah.
well instead of 9-1 and now 7-1.
Yeah.
Billy, so that's
Yeah,
substantial. That
definitely.
now something like that. How do you prevent against that when you talk about price control and trying to keep down the price of items? Because if you get goods from Chatamal, for instance, then you're paying more,
Yeah.
and of course that then the price will have to go up. No, you were saying, Joe. Go ahead.
well, just to answer that one quick. Remember, we are pegged. Our US dollar, our currency is pegged to the US dollar.
Correct.
So whenever there is any move against the US, favorable or unfavorable, it will affect us. But coming back to the point just now that I wish to maybe elaborate on a bit, from my experience, I was around for the price control when it started first. When you have a natural disaster and it creates a shortage in supply,
Mm-hmm.
for a short period, you may have to impose controls,
Yes.
as was
Yes.
done in the right now. We are putting controls by raising the minimum wage. That's price control.
Mm-hmm.
We are saying that you must not pay less than so much, but we are putting on a flooring, not the ceiling. So we do control wages by a price control method. Now, when it comes to goods, we put on a ceiling that you must not sell beyond that. But what I'm saying is that when you impose price control in reacting to what you call price gouging,
Yeah.
price control is not the remedy for price gouging. That's what the minister used the term.
Yeah.
Price gouging is the violation of a law that needs to be addressed by the law. Though, if you have not consulted with the two major institutions that represent the business community, the Chamber of Commerce and the Business Bureau, how is it that you can arrive at a 15% markup? In other words, markup under international standard has a definite meaning. If I acquire the goods for $1 and government say they allow you 15% markup, I can retail the goods for only $1.15. Simply, agree?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you take away the cost of sale, which is the dollar, what you're left with is the gross profit, 15 cents. Now, a 15% gross profit. How is it you expect from me, the businessman, to be able to market the goods and left with a profit out of that? It's ridiculous. So why is it that you, the government, believe that you can just impose? If even, let's say, there was a justification, I believe that you create competition. The government conduct has been militating against competition. One, evidently through the taxes. Two, the failure to collect the taxes and to allow evasion of the taxes by certain sectors in the community, business people. So how can you, the honest businessman who wants to do business legitimately, compete with somebody who the government has not been enforcing the laws to make sure that they pay their proper taxes?
Yeah,
That's
that's an issue. But what I want to mention there, Joe, on your point is 15% gross profit is a super profit on at any given point. But I understand what you're saying, that there are other marks up and stuff. But if you just consider 15,
how do you arrive at 15% markup being?
No, I'm not talking about just that, but I'm saying if anyone earns 15% profit gross on their investment, that's a good profit. That's a super profit.
Absolutely not. Show me how.
What you want?
Of course, 15% is extraordinary profit on any at any standard. Most investment doesn't yield 15% profit.
That's not true. What I'm saying to you, I think you are making the same mistake that others make. It's not a 15% return on your investment.
No. I understand, but I was saying, and that's
the 15% markup.
Yes, I understand that.
And the acquisition cost. So if I buy the goods for $1, then I can sell it for only $1.15.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
How can you tell me that the 15% that I left with out of that dollar and that I spent, that 15% can meet all my marketing costs, all my selling costs, pay for all my workers?
What I said was a 15% gross profit at any business is a super profit. I wasn't speaking specifically.
From my experience, it is not a super profit.
I think you guys are talking about different things, though.
I think so. I think so.
That 15%. Out of that 15%, he said
still have costs.
All the expenses and taxes and all of that. I imagine.
Yeah, when it comes to goods and services, it's not that much. When it comes to like cash or on a financial standpoint,
straight up 15%.
Yeah.
But I am telling you from my experience in auditing and working for the business community, doing the financial statements, a 15% markup is not a 15% profit,
Okay. That's not what I was saying.
Yeah, let me switch.
Leave it then, because I don't think that one topic we want to discuss. Let's leave
we could discuss it more, and I imagine that's something that needs some specialized experience in that, no? And you have more than us, Joe. So you have us at a disadvantage. But now they just added another holiday. Well, exchange for two. Um, Eros, as a business person, do you think we have too many holidays? Enough holidays? What your opinion on that?
Well, I I wouldn't say it's too many. I mean, at the end of the day, it gives me a choice. I have an advantage where I can decide on a day like that. I can decide whether or not I could just open my business and operate. I have that choice, and that could probably set me apart from another business that might decide not to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
In this particular business, there's always an advantage to holidays because people go out more, right?
yeah, people on the holidays, people don't want to tend to don't want to cook. Depending on the holidays, you don't want to stay home and cook and everything. You might want to eat out and relax
Yeah.
and not clean up at home and all of that. But
Yeah.
But you, as the business person, might also not want to cook and clean up on that day either. So you might
definitely,
want to go.
and it happens.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it happens. So it's not like I take advantage of all of those, but some of them I do, right?
So all right, but so the two holidays that they added was George Price's birthday and Emancipation Day,
And
which we
yeah,
just celebrated 2 days ago. Of course, some people are complaining that maybe as opposed to moving it to the Monday, they should celebrate it on the specific day. How do you feel about holidays being moved to make a long weekend as opposed to on the day where it's supposed to fall?
Well, I mean, from a business standpoint, I prefer it falling where it may. Growing up, I would have definitely preferred a long weekend, but it's an entirely different game now. The thing is, if a holiday falls, if it falls on a long weekend, and you try to then expect your workers to come in on the holiday, it's taxing on them, in a sense, and also taxing on me as a business owner because I have to pay more for the holiday. So that provides kind of like a disadvantage on both ends, right? So I would say let it fall w-
On,
on
on
the
the
day.
day. So
Yeah,
you would say that you would have celebrated it on the Tuesday, which was the 1st of August, as
that,
opposed to the
that was
Monday.
that was Judge Price. No,
Well,
that one, that one doesn't matter to me. It's like the one that falls on a Sunday and they try to celebrate it on the Monday. I think I'm more looking at that one as opposed to any normal weekday.
yeah,
I
yeah.
would say this. I would
Uh,
say put all holidays on the Monday because when you put it midweek, it undermines productivity.
Yeah,
Secondly,
yeah,
who pays for these holidays? Who you think pay for them?
exactly. The business owners.
No,
Taxpayers.
no. The consumers pay. We,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the
In the
business
end,
people, pass on the cost to the
yeah.
goods.
Yeah.
well,
In
we
the
pay
end.
for everything, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So to me, yes, it's all right to have holidays.
how
But
do
how
you put
many
that?
holidays we have? How many holidays Belize has for the year?
I think like 13 or something last time I
More than
checked.
that.
More than that?
I
Oh,
don't
Yes.
think
okay.
about no. I think about that number because
Yeah.
the two that they put on, they removed two.
One.
Remember,
I thought they removed one.
I think they moved Commonwealth Day and
They remove Commonwealth Day.
and they were
Yeah.
supposed to have moved Columbus Day, but I saw
Yeah,
they
but they
celebrated
replaced
that
that with
last
it.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is that, again, a nation that is aspiring for development and shared prosperity, but brings the burden which other developed countries cannot
Yeah.
afford to give so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Eros, you're kind of like me and Joe. We in that we're obvious mixed in with other things. There are a lot of Belizeans who are of different ethnic background and whatnot. Emancipation Day, um, there's a lot has been made about it, and of course, invariably comes the discussion about reparation. Any thoughts on the Emancipation Day and what was it a worthy holiday to add to the calendar?
Well, without having doing some research into it, other than that, it's, I mean, the pertinence is kind of vague, right? But at the end of the day, I'm sure there is some cause behind it. I am not fully versed with the cause. I do see how um, there can be, it can definitely be tied to my forefathers and my ancestors who have suffered. That beyond that part, um, giving it as a holiday, there should be, if that's the cause, then we need to maybe spend some time in reverence towards that. On that day, there has to be some kind of a culmination of some kind of event or something, not just, okay, it's a holiday and
Yeah.
you stay
Yeah.
home and sleep.
Well, they did have some ceremonies. They did have and in fact, I saw the deputy prime minister giving a profound speech.
Yeah.
I don't know that everybody was as impressed as I was with it. I thought Shine was there, and it was obvious they gave him um, some kind of mention and so. But I asked him, and he said that the leader of the opposition is not invited to speak at events like that. Don't you think that any such event, the leader of the opposition should be able to have his say, and without politicizing it, of course, but certainly as a member of government, because we need to understand that the opposition is also government. They're an integral part of government, and I don't know why they would not allow, say, for instance, Shine to speak on an event like that.
Yeah, we need I mean, I definitely see why we should have both sides being active in all these events. And
Yeah.
we need a worthy adversary. I mean, without that, where is democracy?
Do we have that though? Because I see now they're having a convention and a demonstration, but it'd be interesting to see what kind of support they can muster for that. At this point, I think the consensus would have to be that the opposition is not as strong as we would like for them to be. Um, we,
But
we, uh,
sorry.
yeah, Mo, go
So
ahead.
I listened to the deputy prime minister, the whole speech on Monday. And then on Tuesday, I listened to the leader of the opposition at a press conference, which he has on a regular basis in his constituency. Now, the deputy prime minister, I would say his speech, when it comes to the lyrics and the prose, was good. But the substance of it, to me, I think, missed the target. I think they glorified the emancipation beyond what it should have been. Because the truth about it, and if you had listened to this Saint, the guy from St. Lucia, the Nobel Prize winner, Sarata Lewis, they were having some lectures at a memorial service at UWI. It was interesting to listen to a professor who did the research upon Emancipation Day. There were 200 years of labor, 20 million people when added together in terms of the time that they spent. And that was what the British got. Free labor for that period. Though
Mhm.
the belief among the researchers, and I had the same feeling when I read for their research, is that the British, in giving emancipation, was not out of a humanitarian concern.
Of course not.
It was because they sensed that the rebellion,
Getting
the potential
expensive.
for rebellion was growing,
Yeah.
and they had to appease them. So what they did, they gone for the proclamation, passed it in Parliament 1833, implemented
Mhm.
1834. But what happened? They removed off the shackles, but they had no farmland, they had no equipment, they had no houses, they had no money. So what they had to do, they had to go right back and work for master, except now they want to get a leap pay.
Mhm.
Well,
So the point
Joe,
of your emancipation, and let me just finish right now, I'm done. Because these are the things we need to respect about the history. Nothing wrong in having emancipation as one of our historical landmarks. But don't overplay it more than it is, because Take Belize. If we got it in 1834, when we got independence, we got self-government in 1964. Look, they're almost 200 years after before we think that we maybe got freedom. We had
Eh,
the removal of the shackles, but there was no
let me
justice.
let me say it to you, and I made this point before, that I would have rather to walk away without shackles with nothing than to remain shackles with whatever I had there before, which was not much of anything to start with anyway. I think the idea of getting free needs to be celebrated, and I think it is a big deal. I don't think we romanticize it when we put a lot of a lot of thing into it, because certainly um, the, the the slavery was atrocious. I mean, we can't say it. And when we talk about reparation, my question is, how much would be enough? Because you talk about 200 years. After those 200 years, the slave owners were compensated, not the slave. So that,
Exactly.
that,
Mhm.
that was
Exactly.
that
Well,
one
well,
terrible situation.
that- I was going to say that of course emancipation should be celebrated, and it should be glorified in every way, because it represents that milestone of being freed in 1833. The fact that Joe was talking about that period of indentured service and apprenticeship that lasts another 5 or 6 years
No,
after
way beyond that.
slavery. Well,
No,
I
one
think
way
it was
beyond that.
official.
I think
Some
about 4 years,
places,
official 4 years.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
Some places and some people prolonged it, and they
right.
develop all
Well,
type of stuff. In the United States, they developed the Jim Crow laws. In Belize, they
right,
never
right,
notified. In
right,
Belize
right.
and some of the other Caribbean country, they never really notified the people that in fact they were entitled to be
We didn't
to
even
be.
know it.
Yeah, yeah. So how do we address this in terms? I don't think it necessarily should be cash payment to individuals, particularly black people, and there were other people that were enslaved too. Through the entire process of colonial system and stuff. But they should allow through structures that certain money is paid into national treasuries to make sure that there's development. We are accounting for what we did in industrializing those countries, right? All the wealth is in them. But even more so today, there are countries that are still not so much in Britain or in England and UK, but in France, where some of the African countries are still trapped in repatriating their reserve to France. Billions of dollars, $500 billion per year they're getting in those countries' reserves. And those are the things that need to be corrected. And
Somebody,
in terms of Britain and those and that in fact enslaved Belize, then we need to figure out from them ways that they can truly contribute to the development of our country,
I,
and the Caribbean region, and
I
not
was
But
just with
watching,
pittance and in long-term commitment.
yeah,
I
The,
was
but
the,
watch,
the, the,
I
Yeah.
the,
was
the
watching a
payment
show.
Let me just finish one point. The
yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
payment
sorry.
the payment to the slave masters, the British government just finally finished paying that off less than 10 years ago. So why can't they now pay back to the people that were in fact enslaved?
to a point you were making. I saw a show that this person was saying that France has no gold but has the largest gold reserve because of all the stuff that, like you were saying, with that
Repatriate,
was
yeah,
funneled
yeah.
back to them. So, and then again, if you're
But
talking about paying, a couple of years ago, the U.S. government sent a check, two checks, stimulus checks, to every man and woman, every person in America. So maybe they could do something like that. But who to send it to? How you gonna
but
identify? Uh,
gentlemen, can I ask
Yeah.
you all
It
something?
has to be to a cause. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
let me
believe
ask
it
you
needs to be a
something.
cause.
Would you give recognition to the University of the West Indies research for this region, the CARICOM countries of which we are a member, in terms of what had happened and how, in fact, they believe that the reparation, because we have a committee of CARICOM, that had been pursuing the reparation,
Yes.
and Belize is a member of it.
But Belize
No.
is not even part of the reparation committee.
Yes, we
Well,
are.
Joy's saying they are.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
are.
I know we are part of CARICOM, but I don't
Yeah.
think Belize is part of
No,
My
no, no. We have
brother,
not.
no, we are
we-
subscribed to it, man. All of us, why we won't?
Okay. I
But
thought
the
I
point
had
I
heard,
wanted,
I'd read
the
that
point I
somewhere.
wanted to make is that we are missing the boat when we speak. I am speaking based on the research done by the people who are competent to do the research. And the point being made is that the day should not be celebrated because, one, it was not out of the righteousness and the humanitarian concern of the British
Sure, that's
to
not a
remove
good
the
reason.
shackles.
But that's
That's
No.
not a
what
good
we're
reason.
celebrating. We're
Now,
celebrating.
hold on, I got
Yeah.
finished. Celebrating an event is different from recognizing it. So, what the experts, and I support them, none of today this thing is being talked about. In fact, for the first time, Belize, and they use the word celebrate it, when in fact to me, they should have stopped and asked themselves, is it something to celebrate? No, it is something to recognize.
Emancipation.
Well,
Yes, recognize it.
Emancipation, Joe.
I mean, you could you could use different words if you want to call it commemorate, if you want to call
But
it whatever.
certainly, that's one momentous thing.
Yeah.
You're
But
talking
what is,
about.
but why they ask, gentlemen, what is momentous about the slave master in trying
But it's not
to
the
develop
slave
a
master we're
strategy?
celebrating.
you
We're
missed the
celebrating
point.
the freedom. We're
The
not
slave
You're missing
celebrating.
the point. You're
We're
missing the
The
point.
slave
celebrating that.
master was developing a strategy to continue to exploit, but he could not continue to exploit the way they were doing it.
So you had to emancipate.
Yeah,
That's
we're not
right.
we're not celebrating. We're not
I'm saying
celebrating
I
the
don't
slave
care
master.
what the reason was for it. The fact that they declared that, you know what, slavery is abolished.
End. Yeah,
No more
yeah.
slavery is ended. That the fact that it didn't right end that right there, and that is my point. That it doesn't matter what day you celebrate, because you're not necessarily celebrating an item that occurred on a specific day. You're celebrating an idea that continues to this day, because there are many of us that are still not really emancipated, if you
All
look
right,
at that.
let me do a comparison, if you allow me to. When the Belizeans who came back from the war, I think it was World War II, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And when they came back, they felt they were being cheated, and riots started in the city.
It was
So you
wasn't
have
was
that,
Are you talking about the riot at the First World War, which was 2019?
Right. You know about that, right?
Yes.
So that to me would be a day to celebrate. Because
What, the
our
riot?
people,
The riot.
right, because they were in fact building a resistance to the injustices even after emancipation. Emancipation had gone long ago, and then gone to war and fight. And then gone to fight for what they call the free world. Just like how the ones that were gone when they claim, according to this battle of St. George's Key, went to fight. But when they came back with the coconut boys, they kind of did worry when they don't sink the Spaniards in big ship. Where is the benefits they got from it? Where is the land they got? How
Aren't
many
we
cats
here?
they got? How
Aren't
many
we
houses?
living
How
on
much
it?
money they got?
Aren't
Nothing.
we living on it right now, Joe? Isn't Belize
No,
still
but
here
the point
now?
I am making, gentlemen, and I would wish indeed we could just agree that there is nothing to celebrate about.
No, but
when
you would wish to us to. I would wish that you
No,
would agree with everything I say too, but you don't
Yeah.
have
No,
to, Joe.
actually, Joe, I kind of disagree. I do believe that celebrating emancipation is not celebrating the British. It's celebrating the fact that slavery was declared to be ended on those days. And that, I think, is important because it set the framework for where we are today. It was progressive, and it took time to really mature. And like the chairman said, freedom is still not fully available to everyone, and we know that in many ways because there are lots of conditions that keep people subjugated and dependent in even our modern day society on government, on handouts and all these things. But some of those are now of our own making. It is our
Correct.
own class structure that
And it's
has
not-
set those frameworks that keep us trapped into the neo-colonialistic
It's not
type of
institutionalized as such as slavery was and condoned.
I will leave you at
And-
this
and-
one point, and then I will withdraw my opposition to what you are about saying. In 1833,
Yes.
when they codified it in law in the British Parliament, implemented in 1834,
Yes.
then it was about 130 years after we got self-government. Now, during that period,
I thought we
after
got
emancipation-
self-government in 1863.
no, we got self-government in 1964.
Now we became
Oh,
a colony.
self-government. Oh,
We
yes,
became
yes,
a
yes.
colony
Right.
in
Yes, yes.
1863.
Yeah, yeah.
I am
You're correct.
saying to
Yes.
you, for that
Yeah.
100 and odd years,
Mhm.
they continue to exploit us.
Yes.
Even
Yes.
after
Well, even to
1834
today, Joe,
emancipation.
what's the point you're making? Even
The
to
point
today,
I am making, my brother,
yes.
is that whereas I will recognize that there was a time in the history of slave countries, let's call them that, where in fact the British had to change their strategy and to remove the shackle because of the potential of the resistance that was coming.
And let's
And they
celebrate
did
the
that as a
resistance then
strategy.
that was coming.
That was a strategy. It was not out of a humanitarian concern. Or
But
out of
it
Yeah,
doesn't
I
matter,
understand.
Joe. It happened anyway. You
no, man,
can't
but you have
get
to
that.
understand the significance of why they did it.
Yeah,
But
no, we understand that.
come
We
on.
understand
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, listen. Again, one man got
Wait,
my sheet
no.
overhead to look for Chapio. And my next man, when he hear a nice, he go and run where okay, and you fucking not Chapio that way I happy about. Not why he run and not chop me. The fucking
Let
not
us-
you chop me.
Let us look at another aspect then. Sorry. Why you think is it that the West Indian Federation failed? Why? Why did
Duh.
it fail?
Fail where? In Belize or everywhere?
No,
It
man,
failed
the
everywhere.
Federation.
Yeah,
that started-
there were many
It-
reasons why
it
they
didn't
were
fail.
concerned. They were
Don't you
concerned
No,
about
man,
smaller
the
countries.
historical
smaller
fact
countries
of
were
the failure of
concerned.
the Federation.
It
When
was
the
it was
Belize
They
had
just
agreed that they will not go into the Federation.
they just changed the name to CARICOM and we joined.
No,
it was
that's
supposed to
not
be
true.
it's
They never-
also be a
no,
little
man,
tighter kind of
The
That's
same,
not
kind of
it's the
thing.
same
It was
thing.
not
No,
man, it was
it's a
not
little
CARICOM,
different. It
man.
was
Of
more
course
like
it
the
wasn't CARICOM. It
it's
was
more like the
CARICOM then.
European
CARICOM.
Union.
It
It
was
was more like
CARICOM.
the yeah.
They're
I
the
am saying to
same
you
basic principle,
that the
Joe.
British wanted to create an administrative tidiness in the region to
Right.
get
Yes.
rid of all of us. That's what they wanted to do.
To
So
get
they
rid
were
of how
encouraging the
that
Federation.
explain that
So,
to me, man. Explain
I,
that to
I
me.
like I
Man,
like
that's a
the,
historical fact. Man, anybody will read the
No,
history of
tell
the
me,
Caribbean
explain,
country,
tell me about that because I don't understand it from that
Because I am
perspective.
saying there were 10 countries that joined.
Yes, yes,
Belize, Price was the then leader of the
Yes.
political party.
yes,
He campaigned against it, that we
Yes.
must not go into it because it is not coming out of the Caribbean people. It is a British strategy to create administrative tidiness and get rid of it.
Is
How you
that
mean
it?
get rid of
Or
it?
did
How you
he
mean
want?
get rid of it? Wait, I mean
Hold
get rid
on,
of
man,
it.
because the time had come when they believed that they had gotten enough. Get rid of them now because we don't need them again. That was the
Oh, I
reason.
see what you're saying. Get rid of it. Oh,
Yes, man.
I
No,
thought
what
you mean
happened?
disposing of the people. I was
Hold on.
trying to
You know
understand
what
what you were
happened?
saying.
You know what happened?
hmm
Jamaica, one of the big ones, Trinidad
Mhm.
was in. Jamaica decided, you know something? This doesn't make sense. This doesn't come from we. This they come from the British. Then it set me up. Jamaica decided and withdraw. You know what Eric Williams said?
hmm
Eric Williams said, well, 1 from 10 leaves 0. And when Eric Williams followed and they decided to break up this thing, withdraw. And then what came after? Listen to me
if
good.
we, I have studied
I
this
want
a
finish
little
now.
bit.
Then what
Okay.
they did, they commissioned the West India. One book written by some Caribbean experts. And there's no 2 of them are 3 of them because 1 or 2 of them is still alive.
But
And
Joe,
they did the study for the Caribbean countries.
Joe,
And then we
you tell
decided
me
we're
finish,
going
man.
no man, hold on, man. Because it's the
I
history
know
we need
there's
to
somewhere
do.
to say because
We went, no man, we don't know. And then we gone to
I hear
Chagaramas.
that already. Go ahead.
No, you don't want to hear this yet. That's why I'm telling you. If you follow the historical facts, we can make better opinions about what we are in. We can't just throw it out from our own gut feeling because there are facts. So what happened? We signed the treaty at Chagaramas, and that is how we begin to come together. And that's why we all joined, because
Yeah.
that was coming out of the Caribbean people. That was not a British thing.
What
Yeah.
was
No,
it?
I
Out of the
understand.
treaty at
But
Thomas,
How
we had the
can you?
Free Trade Association.
yeah,
Then from the Free Trade Association, we gone to CARICOM.
yeah,
And the final
Carifta.
movement
First it
we
was
decided to go-
Carifta, right? Carifta.
it was CARIFTA, the Caribbean Free Trade Association, but
Yes.
that was over the Treaty at Chaguaramas.
But
Yes.
that is same basic principle.
Well,
No,
it
no,
changed.
the
It changed a little
federation
bit.
was
One was
just
a
no, man. The
federation.
federation
One
was
was a
not supposed.
federation that was
Uh-huh.
going to be more like a universal government, central government of the
Exactly.
Caribbean.
Exactly.
A
But
cooperation
what was
between
what was
states.
happening? What was happening? I think some of the smaller countries got fearful of larger countries like Jamaica overpopulating and
Right.
buying up resources in those
Right.
small countries because countries like Belize, we didn't have
But not
money.
even only that, sending their people over there, which are
Yes.
free movement of people, and that's a
Yes.
part of CARICOM, and I think that got CARICOM in trouble also. I
It
Had you
don't
all
still
think
read
bothers
them?
CARICOM.
Had
It
you all
still
read
bothers.
any of
I
the
don't.
Caribbean experts? Did you read Did you read
Sure.
the Nobel Prize winner from St. Lucia, Sarata Lewis? Did you read Beckford? Did you read Charles Godfrey? These are the people who are writing in the world about they were the ones who-
I don't think that Judge Price even objected to it because of any other matter than that he wanted to also recognize that we are Central America. And
No.
I don't know if he didn't want us more to be
No.
Central America, which we are geographically, as opposed to West Indies, which
No,
we
George
are.
Price made it clear, and I was around then, so I could remember, is that we should not support it because this is a strategy again by the British to put us together and get rid of us. And
But they
that's
were
why
going.
Price.
But we were asking to be gotten
We
rid of.
asked for independence.
No, man, we were not. Yes, man, but we were not asked to get rid of us through our federation. That is why.
Oh,
it failed, because
yeah.
it was not
No,
from
no, it
among.
was a British idea. It was a British
Exactly.
idea to create the
That's right.
federation.
That's right. Emancipation was a British idea.
Yeah,
And that's the point
I'm
trying to
I'm
make.
not discrediting that. It was a British idea to create the federation because they
That's a
thought
fact.
there'd be a greater power in that unity than individual countries. Because when you add up the population of all the Caribbean countries, I think they're less than 125 million people.
No, no, the population from Panama, right down.
No, I'm talking
into the
CARICOM countries.
sub-region
I'm talking.
of
I'm
all the Caribbean countries, the Central American countries, right down to Panama.
No.
You have
I'm not.
last count-
Joe.
You have
I'm just talking.
125 million people.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
125 million people.
That's what I'm saying. The whole thing is
That's the same figure Gregory used.
yeah, 125 million. You saying 135?
Yeah, I just try to.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your care for the total accuracy. But what I'm saying, that's not in most instances. It is, but it's not a very viable market, right? You
Very
don't have that
viable.
full economics. Well, yeah, but you
It
don't have
does.
that full economics of scale unless you start strategically saying to
Eros.
countries, unless you start saying to countries strategically, you produce this particular type of product. Over here, we'll produce this type of product. If you try to all do the mix of doing everything, it doesn't work. You see what I'm
Gregory,
saying?
We didn't want to
let me say
box you out,
something
Eros.
for
We
that
really
squad.
didn't want to box you out. at
No,
this
man,
time.
no,
When we
man.
signed-
But when
when
these
we
guys
signed
get
the treaty at
going,
Chaguaramas,
No, I'm
The
getting a lot
intention-
of info, but at the end of the day,
the
Mr.
intention
Morrison
that
was
we were
talking
going
about.
to move along with SICA.
Mhm.
Belize would have been the bridge to bring the CARICOM countries together with the Central American countries. And that is still in the process of happening because we started some movements with CARICOM and SICA.
Yes.
So the
yes,
idea was that we want to build the market. You know what it may be one, just like how we got CARICOM, one Caribbean free trade, which we
Mhm.
begin with, then we move
SICA,
towards economic union.
Yes.
No, the next stage for CARICOM, which we may never see, is the political union, but we're not going
Yes.
there. So therefore, they agree that they will go for the 3 dimensions and they want to try bringing out the next stage, That is what we need to work towards, and Belize has been a good job in getting it done. We
What's the
want
next
now to
stage?
bring in SICA and join.
Join
And
SICA.
we started some of that already.
well,
So,
wasn't
so,
that
so, so that Caribbean countries could bring goods to Belize and we sell it through Belize
Well,
to the
well,
Latin America
we
countries.
were always supposed
Central
to be a
and Latin.
bridge, between the Caribbean and Central America.
Yeah.
That has been touted for years and decades.
Yeah.
It has not materialized. We're also supposed to be a bread basket that could feed both those places. that has not materialized. And a big part of that is the Guatemala issue that we are trying to resolve.
I agree that the Guatemalan was one time a problem, but that was taken care of. That we begin to have.
When was that taken
Cooperation.
care of, Joe? That is not taken care of yet.
No, man, I'm saying that is now before the International Court of Justice, and hope that
Okay.
is resolved there. But it
Well-
was not so much the Guatemalan opposition, because all the countries of SICA supported Belize entry into SICA.
Joe, I didn't say Guatemalan opposition. I said the Guatemalan factor, the fact that Guatemala was there and posing a threat to Belize and laying a claim. It thwarted our possibilities
Momentum,
of
yeah.
achieving these things. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but the only thing I need to correct it again, Mr. Chairman, because we need to have history correct. It was a fact like that. But who? Omar Torrijos, the Panamanian, break that block.
Yes,
and in
he
the
did.
end, all the
Yes.
Central American countries voted for
Yes.
Belize.
Yes.
All of
Yes.
them, except Guatemala.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, and in this way, I applaud Judge Price effort because he went out there and personally did the legwork and got
Yes.
because initially nobody cared about Belize. Nobody,
Right.
but then he got all the countries,
Yes.
not
Of
only
Latin
here, but
America.
all
Yeah.
over the world. He brought them in,
By the way, Mr.
made them
Chairman,
aware of the
coincidentally,
claim.
again, I don't want to. I was the chairman for SICA, I chaired SICA for a while. And we brought some integration with SICA. We brought Panama in, we brought Costa Rica in, and we begin to consolidate.
But
goods
wasn't
like
Judge Price and the president of Panama good friends? And was that
Yeah.
not
Very good.
General
was
Torrijos.
that
General
now a
Omar,
part of it
General
that
Torrijos sent a plane, a private plane, to pick up Mr. Price, because of
so
Torrijos.
could that have
Torrijos
been
will
it?
lead the
Could
charge
that
for
have
Belize.
influenced it? The Guatemala's breaking that chain, if you will, that caused us to get the rest of the people in, that barrier.
Yeah.
In fact,
Well,
Yeah,
he
it was
certainly
Omar
helped. He
Torrijos that
certainly
led the
helped.
way for us.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
definitely did. And then we had Fidel that joined us very quickly after that and became a good partner. Cuba became
Exactly,
a good partner.
exactly.
for
With
Belize.
Judge Price too.
Yeah.
He was good
Yeah.
friends with Judge Price. Yeah.
And
Yes,
you
yes.
know, funny too, the Judge Price thing. I always have had arguments with people who tell me that they thought that Judge Price was racist. Then I throw out a few names: Linda Rogers, Albert Catus, Ray Lightburn, Winston Smiling, who just died. These are all individuals who were, for all intents and purposes, black men, and they were
But
right
you could
up
all.
there.
But I won't say George Price was racist, but I could tell you there were. He was a smart political strategist, and he realized what Belize City was, and that's what he needed. But I wouldn't say that he was racist. I couldn't find that in anything that I've seen, but I'm sure he had his preference because when
Well, Mars,
opportunity came,
don't all of us, Greg? Don't all of us?
no, but when opportunity came and preference were made to who to invite to Belize as new citizens, I think there were definite decisions that were not favoring the black people. And I don't know if it's based on racism or if it's based on some different ideology of work ethics or what it was, but that is a fact, I believe.
Okay. That's interesting because he did bring the Mennonites in as opposed to the Haitians, no?
Mhm.
So that might prove your point. I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking, what the motives behind that.
Yeah.
I'm not going there. Well, I'm the Joe. Joe, no, get rid of chase
Yeah.
Joe, man. How you doing? How you doing, man, that man?
We cut off his line. He was getting too hot.
You cut. Joe, you still there? Why
He's
see
cut
why? See
They
why
were
you're
he's
wrong?
coming
fleeing
back.
from
You're
the
wrong,
civil
Steve.
wars
Why?
in Central America. They were fleeing from Salvador, Nicaragua,
He's still at
Honduras,
that all
and
the while
Guatemala.
in the talk.
We're not seeing you, Joe.
All the while we not see him, yeah, he in the talk, you know. He don't know. Joe, come back, Joe, come back. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you hear me now?
Yeah, but I will end my position here. Let me end it. And I will end it in a
You hear how much time I said that? Go ahead.
No. I know I said it, but you know why I'm so strong about it? I find it difficult for us to advance our knowledge unless we have facts. And the facts to me in this case has to be about our history.
Yes.
And we must know our history. We must know what happened before 1833 with emancipation. We must
Are we
know
teaching
what,
our children this history?
yeah, but that's a different matter. We must teach ourselves, but our children should be taught to. And that is why some of the reasons why we are so confused, because we
Yeah,
was not being taught our history. Now, when
yeah.
you look at the Europe, when you look on the CARICOM countries, the English speaking, we produce some of the best minds in the world, my brother.
Let's
I
talk
agree.
about history. Let's
I
talk about
agree.
history.
I
No, man,
agree.
it's
Shouldn't
a
this
fact.
be a part of
No,
the
I am saying to you
emancipation
all that
program?
if you look at the history written by the people who are doing the research in the Caribbean and connected with
But it was the
universities.
British. Did the British made it do it that I listen to?
No, man, I know the British try to talk about, man. I am saying UWI opened the Faculty of Medicine in 1957. And ever since, they have gone into research. They're one of the leading universities, no doubt, in research. They do research with connection in Canada, in the UK, in Sweden, in Switzerland, many other countries of the world. They have been doing research.
They
And of
open.
course, all we need to do now is to open with books, go right on the internet and go to UWI and read some of these great writers, read about history. And I'm saying the history of emancipation, the history with the Battle of St. George's Key, the history with the people who came back from the war revolting, the history of our self-government, and then with independence. We must know all about these things. We must know why is it that these people are so much in Belize. I don't want it. I never care for all of them to come like that. But they fled from the wars in Central America. And then the United Nations, the human resource, sorry, the human refugees, agreed that they will finance Belize to
But they
assist
didn't.
them.
They gave us pittance. They gave us
No, no.
very little.
No,
Well,
no, no, no. No, no.
do
They
we
never
know?
give it at all.
Have they?
No, no. No,
They
man,
gave
I
like
know
$40
because
million at that time. They
I
gave
no,
was
like,
a
man,
part of
the money came under the PUP government, and the same boy with them, UDP, who became a PUP, then boy, let me tell you, he was the head of that group. He was appointed the commission, and the money came to Belize to help to resettle them because they felt that we shouldn't send them back. But they agreed that they will put up a good amount of the financing for the settlement, and that's how they became Belizeans. No, what happened after that?
See, Joe, go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
So all I wanted to do was to say if we can put all these things now in their historical facts, that's all.
I agree.
Rather than just speaking about whatever you know about and you tell me, boy, but I did give you this from historical facts written by so and so and so and so, and I have to respect that.
Do you think that this history of emancipation that you speak of should be a part of the Emancipation Day programming so that our children understand what we're really observing or recognizing, to use your word? Would that be a
100%.
useful?
100% agree. I think that
Definitely, because I think the
emancipation
majority
should
of
be a part
Belizeans will look at that
of our
as
teaching.
a slavery thing.
Emancipation should be in the schools so that the children, and when I say in the schools, where we can get the textbooks from? We don't get it from UK. No, enough textbooks are written right in the region by some of the best thinkers of the world with PhD and all kind of research. Read the books that are coming from among us. Don't read no Englishman book about free emancipation or whatnot. That is why 3 days ago, coincidentally, it was the same day when we celebrate emancipation. The St. Louis, the St. Sarata Lewis Memorial Center, they had a memorial all day, and one of them spoke about emancipation from the research he did, and he himself agreed. He said there was no need to celebrate emancipation. He said we could recognize it. I mean, he used the word, and he went at length, and he gave you the whole history from the research when UWI did as to what really happened. How they arrived at the 200 years.
What's the difference? What the difference you mean, Mr. Cowie, between celebrate and recognize? What's difference do you expect between those two?
I will say this: I recognize that there was, in fact, a Hitler who killed so many Jews, Polish, Czechoslovakian, but I will not celebrate it. But I will
Do
recognize
you think those Jews could celebrate the fact that that period was done and they're no longer being persecuted as such?
the Jews would never celebrate that
I
because they
see.
got good sense.
But they celebrate
I want to
Holocaust.
celebrate the atrocities you committed against me. No,
But I don't think we're celebrating the freedom. I think we're
but
kind
there
of
was no
disconnected.
freedom. The Jews never get no freedom.
No,
from
no,
the
no. I'm
American-
talking about
the Jews,
emancipation.
man.
I'm talking
Yeah,
about
see,
emancipation.
I am saying, Mr. Gregory, there are days that a country can celebrate.
You're gone again.
Maybe celebration is not the word I would necessarily
yeah,
use
yeah,
in
I
it
agree.
also.
That's the point. Don't
Wait,
use
wait.
celebration. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
to
yeah,
celebrate.
yeah.
It's to
Let's not
recognize
use-
it as part of our history.
Let's not
Yes,
use celebration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Maybe there's a different
But
word.
can we observe the fact? Can we observe? Then let's use observe the fact that slavery is no more, and we know how atrocious slavery was.
Yes.
Can we observe the fact that then, and forget the signing of a declaration, but we don't have slavery again. Not that type of slavery. Certainly, we have the other
People enslaving each other.
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being ignorant is one way of put our people back in bondage. So maybe we need to free ourselves by educating ourselves on a part of the education. One wise man once said, if you don't know the past, you are doomed to relive it.
That's you know who said that? It was Golda Meir said that in the cabinet when Egypt and them were in fact moving to overtake
Joe, but we
Israel.
don't want to move away from and go into the schematics of it and who said and all of that.
I
But
agree
the
with you.
fact
So
is,
that's how we don't want bad about quote them. Those
No,
who forget
sometimes
the
it's good
past
to know
live
where a term comes from. It kind of puts some level of understanding to the meaning of it, why it was said, and what it kind of helps us sometimes.
yeah, and then again, though, sometimes it takes you away from the core of the argument and
It
go on
does
a
too.
tangent, anyway, we
But Joe like to educate us all, so that's his
Why
job
it's not
here.
about me educating you all?
This is what I say. Because use
I believe
educator
that you all can
frustrate,
educate me. But what I want to be
So now
educated in,
emancipation will mean something a little different to us
Yes,
going forward.
yes.
And it means that it means something different to people in our country.
Yeah,
Everybody
and
has
it
their
means
own.
different to different people, especially when you look at ethnicity. But
Exactly.
to understand that even though some people might be Hispanic, some people might be Chinese, I think if they're in Belize, emancipation should mean the same thing to them, because it means Belize's integrity of what it is today. That's how I see it. And so individually, I think everybody could share in the idea of emancipation, no matter what your ethnicity is.
well, of course, I think anybody should celebrate freedom from slavery.
Yeah,
I
mean
think
particularly in Belize. I'm talking specifically in the context of Belize.
well, what do you do with a person like, say, Jeremy Spooner, a white Englishman? He's a Belizean, born and grew up a Belizean, have business in Belize and whatnot. What do you do to a man like that when it comes to emancipation?
Well, to me, as I said, to me it represents more Belizeness. He's not an English. He's not a British. He might be English in his genetics and DNA, but he's a Belizean. And so it means everything for the country of Belize. It means that Belize was set on its path to being an independent, developing country. That's what it means to everyone, no matter your ethnicity.
I would have been more in favor of a day celebrating Vote Day, which was June the 1st. I believe it was
1796,
97,
a year before, 97,
right.
A year before.
When they decided that we would stand and fight as opposed to run and leave abandon the colony as we have done so many times before.
I agree. I
think that would be more relevant to more people, the Belizean, and goes back to the question Joe may
Yes.
ask. Why? What happened after then put down the coconut stick and Cornwall? We had to show for it, and I believe we have a country as a result. No,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
certainly an English
But,
speaking country.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if you're still going to again give, let's call it honor and compliments to those slaves who went along with the British and fight alongside with them to repel the Spaniards.
Right.
Now, what is it that those who come from them, what is it that they got at the time for it? What
At
was
the
the benefit
time-
for them?
At the time, I don't know. Maybe an extra sandwich the night after or something like that. I
Maybe,
don't-
we didn't get anything. Maybe we got locked up after
Maybe
the, after
we're
the
right
Spaniards
back in-
flee.
yeah.
So why
but,
is it
but
that you would want to celebrate that?
no,
because
no,
we
but
as a people have a country.
yeah. The end result is that we have a nation birthed from that beginning, from that seed of that revolution or insurrection that started the freedom of the people of Belize to drive out
That's
the
not true.
Spaniards.
And I believe
Somebody
Joe
think
understands
that's
that he's
not
being
true.
devil's
He
advocate.
No.
just messing with us.
But again, I see with the mess up with the thwart history, man. What they did at that time was not the birth of no nation. That was
You
a
don't- you-
choice as to who will govern. It was a choice as who would be the master.
No, it wasn't the full birth of our nation, but it started developing the embryo of who we are today. We have
Well,
to
then
start
let's go back to
somewhere.
when they were. Let's go back to when they were
Inevitably,
selling them
yeah.
in West Africa. When the blacks were selling blacks in South Africa. Why don't we celebrate that? Since that's the beginning.
Joe, you're being facetious.
No,
You're not
what I am
fair. You're
saying-
not being fair.
No, I'm very strong about what I'm
No,
saying.
that
in the sense.
that was a real cause because part
I
of
believe-
what enabled slavery was
Of course,
the
and that's understood.
was
There's
the
no way a few
Africans-
white man from a ship come to Ghana and
Exactly.
enslave Africa. So we
Yeah.
know
Can
that.
anyone
That's
of
a
you
given.
Tell me if they celebrate Emancipation Day in the United States.
They do recognize it. I don't think they celebrate it.
Right.
Wait, I don't
Now,
remember.
you remember when they got the proclamation, right? For emancipation?
But we do celebrate Juneteenth, which is very similar to Emancipation Day. We don't call it Emancipation. That was just recently enacted.
No, but
I
the
think
question
this
I
is the
was
second
asking,
year.
Do you know if the United States, I think the proclamation for emancipation, remember it was with Abraham Lincoln, right?
Yes.
Well, the
I think it
same
was
criticism is
1860
raised, you know.
something. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. It was 18 something. No.
It was 1834, I think, when the United
Well,
States.
And the
34
same criticism is
34 was
raised.
released. The UK, the United States came after. Remember they had the Civil
Yeah,
War, right?
the UK, I think, did slavery away in 1808 or something initially.
No, the
No, for
proclamation. The law was passed in Parliament in 1833.
Yes, that's
and then
for
it
freeing.
was effective. The one for Belize and this region was passed in 1833.
Yes.
And 1 year after, it came into effect.
Yeah.
Now, in the United States,
Mhm.
they do not put no significance on that emancipation because it is true that Abraham Lincoln said, he said the Union is more important to him than the emancipation.
Of course,
He said, but
of
he
course.
would like to have. He would
didn't
like to
start
have
out- he didn't
emancipation
start
in the
out-
Union.
Yeah.
No,
But Joe, this
The point
gets
I
back
want
to
to
the
make,
point. I
it
am,
was
man.
not
I man.
until about 100 years after that proclamation
Joe.
was there any
Sure.
significant change in the civil rights movement when in 1964 Johnson signed the first Civil Rights Movement Act.
Mhm.
So to
Yep.
me, the point we want to make in our history, that be careful how we tend to want to give credit to things which had no historical grounding in the heroes of our nation and those who came before us.
Well,
Joe,
but
Joe.
I think the chairman said the celebration should probably have been the Flowers Bank 14. That has much more.
I think
grounding.
that would have had more significance.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Joe, for a man so enamored with history, you want us to forget history. Now, when Abraham.
No.
Hold
No,
on,
no,
hold
no,
on.
no,
Let
no,
let
no,
me
no,
finish.
no,
Let
no,
me
no,
hold on. You had the mic the whole show, Joe. May I finish my point?
Go ahead.
When Abraham Lincoln freed those slaves, it was also because he saw that he better free the slaves if he wanted them to join the union and make this
Exactly.
and prevent this revolution from succeeding. Now, does that make it any less significant that he signed that declaration and freed the slaves? I mean, the fact is that they were
His hands
slaves.
was forced,
You
but he
could
did
look.
it.
Yes, he did it. So you can look that Givas in the mouth all you want. But
Yeah, but
the fact is,
why don't you read the proclamation that he wrote rather than be saying something which is not true?
what am I saying that's
I
not
read the
true, Joe?
proclamation just
Yes,
2
but
days
what am
ago.
I saying that's not true?
You are saying that he wanted to free the slaves because that was supposed to be helping him in what, forming the union? He made it
Didn't
clear.
you say that
It-
he said that he was more concerned about the union than about freeing the slave, about emancipation? You said that, Joe.
Yes,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
Me
So he
say,
was more
no.
concerned with that.
No, man, I am quoting what Abraham Lincoln wrote.
Exactly.
So
And
then
and
you're
and
asking me if
freeing
I read
freeing
it.
freeing the slave was not his original priority.
Exactly. That is the same thing as
His
the
priority was to maintain the union.
Mhm.
That is
And,
the
which
and
same thing what the British did.
exactly.
The British never freed the slaves
Exactly.
because it was
But
their
you're not listening,
humanitarian
Joe.
interest.
We're saying that is all good and well, but the fact is that the slaves were freed, and that is what
Yes.
the observation is about. Not about why he did it, how he did it, where Hannah used to sign
But
the
that's
pen with.
important, Mr. Chairman.
yeah,
It's important
let's
to
give
know the
Mr.
significance
Rios
of
the last
history.
few words before we end here.
Yeah, because
Sorry.
we're out of time actually. Eros, we're really happy to have you, man. We're grateful that you decided to join us this evening.
Happy to be here. Good
Uh,
listening.
Well, good listening to you too, because from an entrepreneur point of view, I think we need to look at that more, because I think more of our people needs, and we're no longer developing robots, 9 to 5 robots. We need to be developing in our education system thinkers who can create their own opportunities.
Right.
Because with AI coming on board now, more so we're gonna need people who can think on their feet and get things done outside of the box, if you will, not the 9 to 5 kind of thing, because that are the jobs that are going to be replaced. I don't think any AI could come around and make rum cakes like your wife can. I like the pecan pie, by the way. I enjoy that a lot.
Do you want to share your
Sure.
address? You want to share your address or your phone number or something before we close off?
Yeah, sure. So Baked, you can contact Baked at 627-8338 WhatsApp, or call, send us a message. We're on Facebook and Instagram, and you can also drop in at number 10. It's right on the corner of 17th Street in Kings Park and 8th Street
Around the corner from the Lopez Mateo Park.
by
correct?
Lopez Mateos Park. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can't miss us if you're on Princess Margaret Drive. You'll see the little coffee cup, like coming from or to the municipal airport, the little airstrip. You will see that little coffee cup pointing inwards. So you just follow the arrow and you'll find us.
And to our people abroad, we want to say, when you're dropping a Belize, that's the spot you want to go and you get to leave feeling of being in Belize, and also reflect back on being home over there, because the service is exquisite.
Well, can I
nice.
finish on a good note? Mr. Euros, sorry. I must congratulate you for the reason that I have met you at your place. And from the time I first met you, I must tell you that I felt your hospitality. It did generate to me. I felt that the meetings that we have there at your place and the conversations, you have contributed tremendously. And I admire your transformational vision. I think you will make a great, successful humanitarian entrepreneur. I thought you did a good job and doing a good one.
Honor, you're done.
Thank you. It's an honor to be among the greats. Thank you, guys.
Joe, thanks a lot again for being with us. And he always threatens shot. And then there you hold on, my go, and he wind up the stay anyway. Oh yeah, left. I guess much to say.
Talk the most.
Greg, leave the man alone. Greg, thanks again, Greg, for taking the time out. People, thank you for listening. Yeah, Eros again. Big respect and thanks, my brother.
Thank you, guys.
Wait, we out of here. Come on.
Me no need no gimme for to make the lyrics pop. Me no need no fire pan no stick. Make it ball like a wig. Gonna jump up in the air.
Let us see why, by the way. When it's one of his tunes, artist, he do a lot of musical work and whatnot. He really patriotic Belizean living abroad. Got strong connection with Belize. A brother that actually the Grandmaster Flash, the guy, the poet who used to go around. You know him, right, Eros?
Yeah.
Eros must have gone. It thing freeze again. All right, you mic the half again. All right, guys, great, a pleasure as always. Respect, brother.
Good
Come
evening.
on.
Violence prevention, that will mention why you have to spit with so much bad intention. So I'm gonna say it, so shall it be. What's the seed far close to the G? You know, say retire that is negativity, plus you stay the complete. Even though you have dollars, they fall like rain. Still want drive in another man lane. Me no need no gimme for to make the lyrics pop. Me no need no fire pan no stick. Make it ball like a wig. Gonna jump up in the air. Somebody beware.